like I said, that's what I'd heard about the case. Was that she was literally she's the one that called 911. So apparently there was a skirmish going on, maybe in her house. Maybe she was concerned herself, but she was the one
I
that
think
actually called
she
the police.
said she heard prowlers or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that anything was actually going on in her house except that she was boiling water and maybe like saying some weird biblical stuff or something. But yeah, I have no problem refraining from blaming all police for one idiot cop. But I mean, the one cop, like, he made a very bad and fatal call.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Okay, sorry. Let me just jump in because I have the great benefit of not being American, so I am actually an independent, unlike you lot. So what's her name? That black woman, Tiffany, whatever her name was, whose boyfriend did something, and she got shot through the wall or whatever around the George Floyd time.
Is it Breonna Taylor?
That's it. I said Tiffany. I said Tiffany. It was close enough. Right. So if she's going to get a $25 million payout, right, then this chick, who really did nothing wrong, should get an even bigger payout, right?
Yeah.
Dead.
Well, she's dead, but her family
Again, look, I will say to you on behalf of everybody in Australia, and when I say everybody in Australia, I mean me, can you guys please get your shit together in America? Like, seriously, like, knock it off. Like, stop this shit. Like, the rest of it, like, half of the world that Sasha is familiar with are laughing at you, and the other half of the world that relies on you is going, oh, no, what's happening? Like, please get your shit together. Come on now.
I would like
together, and since you have the other gentleman on who you said is from the Middle East and all along those lines, I'd love to hear.
No, he's not from the Middle East. He's from bloody inner city Sydney. He's more woke. He's a former wokester. He's trying to be a reformed wokester. This guy is a bloody Bernie bro. How did you look? It's
derailing.
I'm going to derail this massively, right? Because everyone says I've got conservative friends. Okay, I got Travis over here who was a union boy, and now I've got you who's come to my house that was a Bernie bro.
Yeah.
Like, come on, fellas.
It's pretty right wing.
Come on now. Travis, you and Joel are going to have to explain yourself.
Where did you say he was originally from?
Where was he originally from? Australia. That's where he was born.
He was born.
So that's what he is.
I misheard you then. All right.
He's not just 3/5 Australian. He's all fifths Australian.
Yeah. So
now again, Joel, the Bernie bro, and Travis, the Union bro. Right, yeah, you're on international TV. Will you two gentlemen please explain yourselves?
Mate,
Travis, you're muted.
mate,
I'm going.
Yeah, I know.
You sit there and explain it.
Let me go back to the police.
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
first.
Yeah, Rick, please take it away.
All right, so I want cops to do this to approach policing like they do with sports. In sports, you prepare for your games by watching game tapes, by watching tapes of yourself in games and seeing where you screwed up. You watch, and we have 700,000 cops in the U.S. Hundreds of thousands of those police are required to wear body cams. I would like to see, I don't know how exactly. We see how it works in police squad rooms. At the beginning of the day, they go over the events of the day and assignments and all that. I'd like to see police departments make it a normal practice to review for everybody together, to review body cam tapes, to get a better understanding of what works and what doesn't.
Well, hold on a second, Rick. Travis.
Rick, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Right, you guys have some weird sports in America, right?
Yeah.
Which we respect, like we do, like your World Series in the baseball, which incredibly only the United States and Canada has ever won, which is impressive. Like the World Series, and only you guys have won it. That's pretty good. But in other sports like soccer or football, as we call it elsewhere, you get like a yellow card and a red card. Now, if you're suggesting, Rick, that the police should act like sports umpires. Like what happens? Like you punch,
that's not what I'm suggesting at all.
Well, that's what you said. So, like, if you punch your wife in the face, like you get a yellow card. If you kill her, you get a red card. You get like 10 minutes time out. Like or like ice hockey, like you guys have. What's the plan here?
No, that if you're preparing for a game against Birmingham or Manchester or whatever, you get some tapes of those guys playing and you see what they do, and you're like, and you watch tapes of your own selves to see what you can do better. You watch tapes. Now the cops are generating thousands of hours of tapes every day of cops in interactions with the public, interactions with criminals or potential, alleged criminal. People can review tapes and see, like this tape. It's like I would say a lot of police departments should just play the short tape of this lady getting nailed in the head for holding a pot of boiling water. It's like, don't do this.
Rick, this sounds like something that you normally talk about. This sounds like something that's on OnlyFans or Pornhub. Like, isn't that what we normally talk about? No, Mark. Before you do, I have leveled a pretty serious accusation against Travis and Joel about being left-wing wingnuts, and neither of them have responded. They've both made excuses and handed it over to Rick. So, Travis, unmute yourself. I want a response from you, and I want a response from Joel Jamal over here.
Well, it's true. I was a former union rep, so unions do some good things. It's like most. Sorry, I'm just like really sore throat. Most, whether it's socialism, capitalism, communism, every single political system has some good things and some bad things. It just depends on what sort of system you want to be in. So at the time, the union system worked really, really well for the industry I was working in. So, and I wanted to help people, and so I joined the union. Then I had to look at some of their political donations and thought that's a load of shit, and got out. So the Australian union system is extremely corrupt. They bribe politicians nearly on a daily basis. And it's just not a good system. They sit there, they bully bosses, and they're one of the reasons why our average income in Australia, in WA, is $93,000 a year. So there's a lot of problems with the system, but there's also a lot of good things as well. And I'd say more bad than good, but yeah. Just going back to the police, though,
I am so unhappy with you, right? I thought we were friends, and now you come up with a logical and sensible explanation for unions, which makes it look so bad. Like, come on now. I'm supposed to attack the unions. What's going on? I thought you were conservative now.
I'd call myself a centrist. But anyway, so going back to the police, I think the police, what I worry about, there are generally a lot of really good police out there. I know Shaq doesn't agree with me on this one, but I don't care. He can go stick it. So I think the person that shot the lady should be put through the court system properly, not sugar-coated or anything like that. I don't think race, gender and all that sort of crap should be taken into account in this thing, because someone's dead. They should be treated as a murderer, as what they are. And if they sat there and go, oh, she's done, no point checking, like, that just shows blatant disrespect for the deceased. So, like, I think it's a disgusting act of behavior. It's like that Aussie bird that they heard a disturbance in the backyard. They called the cops. The cop rocked up, pulled his gun and shot the person who actually called for the disturbance, and she was an Australian. Like, things like this, I think the biggest problem in the police force, and this is the world over, not just in America, but also in Australia, the police are under too much pressure. There's not enough of them, and I never thought I'd ever say that, but they're not getting the backup from the justice system, because this guy might get 3 years if he's lucky on good parole. But if you're someone from a finance company that rips off a whole heap of super funds, you don't get 10 to 20. I don't think half the punishments for the crime, they don't fit. There's no deterrent to make sure they don't do this sort of shit. And the higher up should be checking on who they're actually hiring to be police. And if they can't act under this position, there's no reason why they should be in the police force in the first place.
Cry me a bloody river. Cry me a river. Because I know you said like Shaq's not going to agree with me, so I don't. And Joel, I don't know how you feel about the police, but let me just tell you how I feel about this life, right? So, Travis, you said there's a few good ones. Really? Like, can you name a couple? Remember every
I can't
single
remember his
time
name, but I
there was a
can.
new.
I can name one. I'll name him. Ivan Carter. Just so you know, he's my pop's brother.
Evelyn Ray.
Yeah, and he's probably still a piece of shit, right?
You know he's dead, right?
Normal policing. He might be a nice person
There's a lady on
in reality, right? But you know, Kimberly, hello. Everyone knows how I feel about
Like
police.
him.
But here's the thing. Like, remember what's the name? Fife or whatever. Every time there was a new speed limit introduced in Western Australia, like these people will speed down the middle of the freeway, and you get a fine for doing 5 kilometers over the speed limit. Like, what is this nonsense? So here's the thing: if you're going to say
That's
to
not
me,
the beat cop though. That's their senior bosses and politicians doing that.
Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. But I work in finance, so I'm normally named I'm normally associated with being this evil capitalist pig. Okay, it's not how I act in real life, and I go, but I'm one of the good guys. Like, I don't act that way. I care about people. I donate money to charity. I do all these good things. Like, yeah, but you're still an evil capitalist pig. Well, then so is all of those police officers that turn a blind eye when their fellow police officers do something wrong, right? We have anti-association rules in Australia. We say that nobody should be allowed to wear a bikies patch or this or that, okay, because they're all tarred with the same brush. Well, okay then. So when a police officer does something wrong and they go running to the police unions for protection because they've been caught, and then they turn around and they say, which you just echoed, Travis, oh, but it's a hard job. It's tough. It's stressful. Well, go get a job at a bloody library then. Okay?
If you can't handle
because if I have a stressful job, if I have a stressful job and I'm working for a bank and we've just taken a multi-billion-dollar loss and I'm really upset and I'm having a really hard day, I don't get to go out onto St. George's Terrace and punch someone in the face because I'm having a hard day. I don't have a union that's going to represent me and say, oh, he was stressed out that day. I don't get that. So why do the police get it? But bullshit, that's a stressful job. If you can't handle it, don't get
Hold on. I've been waiting. In the comments, Lee Rhodes asks, what about the tapes from July 13th, which was, he's referring to the attempted assassination of Trump. And the deal is, they looked at the tapes, they looked at everything, and the head of the Secret Service has been forced to resign. Because when you look at what happened, and there's enough, she was, running a shoddy operation.
Yeah, can I just say one thing, one line on this, Mark? It also just came out, I saw a couple of days ago, that the local PD there, for some reason, at this particular event, they didn't have their own cameras recording on their bodies, whereas in normal situations they would. What happened? Do you guys have any answers on that? I'm very curious about exactly what happened there.
Well, a problem in the U.S. and I assume in a bunch of other places, it was one of the major, failures behind 9/11 was that different agencies don't share information well with each other, and like in 9/11, the FBI and the CIA and local police, they had enough to piece together that pilots were training at flight schools across the U.S., but they weren't training on takeoff and landing. They were just training on, flying in. And a local FBI agent, Montana was like, oh, this is very suspicious. Never went anywhere because there wasn't adequate communication. I assume something similar happened with July 13th, that the various people weren't coordinating.
So let me just jump in on the whole DEI thing. Kimberly is wearing my favorite top for her to wear. The first time I recall her wearing it, I was wearing a red top, and I think it looks amazing on her. Now, if Kimberly and I are having a conversation about something, or we're discussing chess, I don't know how good at chess she is. I think I'm probably better because I'm better than most people. I'm not as good as Sasha or Nick. But if I beat Kimberly, is that because she's a woman, or is it just because she's not as good at chess as I am? What we've seen here with the Secret Service is that there's a woman in charge, and she's been thrown under the bus because of something that was screwed up, and everyone goes, "Oh, she's a DEI hire." Leave that alone, okay? Women. Let me finish. Please let me finish. Women and people of color are very capable of doing these jobs. There is no question that something went wrong. What I am really pissed off about is this doesn't just come down to the director of the Secret Service, right? There's a whole team of people that screwed this up. But she has been thrown under the bus, and one of the reasons she's been thrown under the bus is because she's a woman. Cut it out. Knock it off.
I want to
Okay.
point out a
She
few
deserves
things
a bit
that
more
I don't
respect.
think anyone on the panel has considered. Okay, and I've worked, thanks to the patent that I had the honor to work with NCS4. I've seen security secure a whole conference center for all the world leaders every year, and it's phenomenal. But some of the things that people are not considering is some of the processes that whether they did or did not occur. And also, I think they need to take into consideration, what did she put into place? What was her considerations? And did her team follow her instructions? I think that is very important, because there has been a lot of speculation, could it have been an inside job? So they had to evaluate a lot of things that we don't see or are not privy to. But, did she put into place that this needed to be done and nobody listened to her instructions? And then does that make her a bad leader for that team? Or does that just make a bad team? I think that there are a lot of things that were not considered as well. Generally speaking, in an assassination, you have probably some of the best snipers working in Secret Service, the best in the world. And they really shouldn't be taking a kill shot. They should be, in a matter of a half a second, disabling the assassin so that they can do what? Interrogate the assassin. And that was not done. A kill shot was taken in actually a kill shot was not taken in enough time, because the shooter got off 3 direct, 1, 2, 3 shots. Count them, time them. I did. Then pause. Then in consecutive rapid shots. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then 8 seconds later, kill shot. That was a lot of time from the first shot. And, if you sat and counted it, weighed and measured it with all the videos going on, you would see that. And so a lot of things have to be weighed and measured. But I think the main thing that needs to be weighed and measured is, what was her directives? And what did they follow her instructions? But there's a lot of things that needs to be investigated. But I mean, the first words out of my mouth when I saw all of that was, I would be firing the Secret Service. I would have fired the whole team.
Yeah,
but
need to be fired. But hey, just really quickly, because we have Steve here and everything, and I'd love to hear his thoughts. I'm sure Shaquille will jump in as well. But there are attacks, as we expected, against Kamala, and some of those attacks are that she is soft on the Jewish issue, and that maybe she's a little bit too pro-Palestinian. And then one of the other accusations is that she is a stepmom and not necessarily a mom of her own and everything, since she is married to the gentleman that is of Jewish descent and all along those lines. And of course, we're also hearing about people that are bringing up her past and how she was groomed for office by folks, and maybe she, as some people in the right have said, slept her way to the top and all along those lines. So
all right. So those arguments are dumb. They don't hold. I mean, which makes me optimistic as a Democrat. If these are the best arguments they have, then great. I mean, they aren't the best arguments. They're just the first arguments. And no president of the United States has ever given birth to a kid. And then in the early 90s, more than 30 years ago, she dated Willie Brown, a California politician, 30 years older than she was, who'd been separated from his wife for 10 years. But it's not like it bumped her up the ladder. She stayed in the same type of jobs, assistant DA, deputy DA, from 1990 until 2004. It's not like, dating Willie Brown put her on a fast track. She spent 27 years, learning how to do her job as DA before actually becoming chief DA of San Francisco. So,
Rick, can I just jump in on this, because you know that I'm a big supporter of the Innocence Project and things like that. I have nothing against Kamala Harris. Watching her speech the last couple of days, it's nice to have somebody that can actually say something. Lots of things that she is criticised for, I actually like about her laughing. I know Travis and Joel will be like, oh my God, I actually like her personality, personally, okay? I don't agree with her policies, okay? That's just my view. I don't agree with the policies, but I think she's an all right person. But the idea that Willie Brown didn't help her in her career, that clearly isn't true. I'll go past the age thing, because what does that mean? Like, can I not date somebody who's 20 years younger than me? Like what are we talking about here, right? So I think that people do all sorts of things for different reasons. I'm sure there's many people that are on the panel right now that'll help me because they know me. Sasha is going to help me with my chess if I ever actually take him up on his offer. And as good looking as I am, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think Sasha wants to screw me. So,
can I ask a question
like,
real quick?
let's not make too much fun of Kamala for
doing
that.
things like that and not the men? You know, Trump has had tons of extramarital situations and paid a porn star to hush your mouth about it. Yet it's
so the argument there, Kimberly,
to have an affair with a man who was known to not be married to his woman, but nobody shooed him down, but everyone shoos a woman down for it. You know.
So the argument there, Kimberly, is that the argument there is that she slept her way to the top. It's not the argument that powerful men like Epstein or Weinstein or whoever slept their way to the top. The argument is that they took advantage of young
slept his
people.
way to the bottom and paid for it.
Sure. Look, I'm not going.
If you're
Kimberly,
going to
as you
shame
know,
somebody, shame everybody.
Kimberly, as you know, I'm never going to support. I'm never going to support men. I'm never going to support men taking advantage of women. I'm never going to support that. But that's my whole point. I don't think that the argument Republicans are making that Kamala slept her way to the top is a good argument. If you're going to go after her on policy, right? Because this shit isn't going to work.
I don't want to go
I say to Democrats all the time, knock it off with calling Trump Hitler. Knock it off with saying that he is going to destroy democracy. Attack Trump on policy. I say the same thing to my conservative and Republican friends in America. Knock it off with Kamala Harris. Don't start this whole birther bullshit like you did with Obama. That's not going to work. How about you just talk about policies, and if you have a policy difference, express that. Nobody's right or wrong. Let the people make a decision about what policies they think are right or wrong, but knock this personality shit off.
She talks it and she walks it. I mean, she put, she knows how to deal with crime. She knows how to deal with sexual abusers. She knows how she's put away people for fraud. She knows how to deal with these things. And I think she will face and deal with every problem we have the way she always has. And it will be good. And it will be strong.
Just really quickly, I definitely want to hear from Steve, and I also want to hear from.
Didn't like her before, but I like her now.
But I want to hear from Steve. But Steve, go ahead, and then I got a question for Dan.
Yes, sir. I see a place where it's been kind of hard.
Where's Steve? Hi, Steve.
Hey, can you hear me? Yeah. So, I mean, my big thing is I do believe that Donald Trump is in trouble now. I think that the momentum towards Vice President Harris is much more than I thought it was going to be, with just in 48 hours raising a lot of money. I think also Trump is probably regretting the selection of his vice president. I think J.D. Vance, in my opinion, now is going to be outshined by what I'm hearing from confirmed sources this morning, is that the vice president is most likely going to be Roy Cooper from North Carolina, or it could be Shapiro. But both of these gentlemen are very distinguished, very seasoned. Cooper's a very popular governor of North Carolina. And if they win Pennsylvania and North Carolina, the election is over. So I think I even heard yesterday that there's even some Republicans very concerned about Vance's performance recently. Just don't think that he's going to be able to push over the edge. I think if Trump had picked Nikki Haley, I think it'd be a totally different race. So I never thought I would say this, but I believe that Kamala Harris has a very good chance, Vice President Harris has a very good chance of winning this election. I think it'll come down to the focus on the message. I think after a while, the honeymoon is going to be over, and she's going to have to make an argument of why her versus Trump. But that's just my take on it. I'm ready for the question.
Steve, just really quickly along those same lines, there is a cease and desist order, because definitely one of the things that Nikki Harris says is that she wanted her own people to kind of make their own decision, and there was a group that formed a pact that was called Hillary for Harris or something like that, and she has ordered a cease and desist because she is saying that they are wrongfully using her name because the pact had a different name. I think it was Pivot or something along those lines. And so she put out a cease and desist order because she felt that they were using her name, and she has shown her support behind Trump. So I just wondered, is this cease and desist order going to work, and will there be a number of Hillary folks that are going to go for Harris because of the Indian connection and all along those lines? But I just wanted your take on that, because I just heard about the cease and desist order yesterday.
Well, that's why
We can't hear you, Steve. You're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
It's very muffled, my friend.
Well, I'm going to have to call in tomorrow. I'm not able to where I'm at. But Mark, to answer your question, if you can hear me a little bit, I would just say that I think that the Indian Americans could be motivated, younger voters, Asian voters, women voters, to see a woman of color on the ballot whose mother grew up in India. I do think can make a factor. And the fact is, in North Carolina, there are 120,000 Asians. Many are Indians in Wake County and Mecklenburg County. And, this thing could be won by 10, 12,000 votes. So absolutely. I think more so than J.D. Vance's wife being the potential second lady. I think Vance, I got to tell you, I think that was the worst choice Trump could have made. And I think he'll lose this race. I will make a prediction. I think Donald Trump will lose the race because he selected Vance as running mate. I think it was the worst.
Can I say something to this, Steve? And I'd really like to get Joel to have a comment, because he's not with us very often. I'll just say this: if Kamala Harris wins the election, he doesn't win it because she's a woman of color. She wins it on her own merits.
Yeah. If
she loses it, I don't think it's fair to say that she lost it because she's a woman of color, right? She lost it because of other issues. That's my view. Now, personally, I don't think she's going to win. That's not because I hope that Trump is going to win. I just don't think that she's going to, based on the poll numbers and based on where the betting odds are. However, the betting odds have firmed significantly, right, in her favor since she's taken over the apparent Democratic nomination. I think that people, again, should recognize, like I've been saying the last week or so, we're not enemies, right? We can have different political views. We're not enemies. But having said all of that, I'd like to let Joel please say.
Have we heard from Sasha yet?
Or before, but you've got to go. So, Sasha, you can go next.
Sasha, please. I know you've been waiting patiently to weigh in.
I would like to mention something about Nikki Haley. She blew the biggest chance of her life to become a unifier of a real Republican Party. By endorsing Trump, she showed that she is just a regular, usual piece of shit, as all these clowns who endorsed Trump. And therefore, she has no future, whether Trump wins presidency or he lose presidency. Her political career is over. Instead, she could become a figure number one in the Republican Party, especially if Trump would lose election.
What does Dan Worthington say? I want to hear from him. Dan, any opinions, please?
Yeah. Joe Biden, what I really don't like about what the Democrats are doing is they're touting all the successes of the Biden administration. Those successes actually are things that harmed our country, destroying our country, destroying the economy, destroying everything, the border, military, everything, and to continue to get Harris in the position just makes it worse. Actually, she's farther left than Biden is even, and she really has been a do-nothing vice president. I think there was an internal coup that, of course, Biden really needed to be replaced, but they decided to replace him 3 weeks ago, according to the insider information. And so they've been leading up to this big coronation of Harris. And I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, this is the only thing they could do. She may get an initial bounce. I don't know. The early polls suggest she isn't. But again, I think it depends on who she picks as vice president. She's going to have to pick probably an experienced politician that is, and they've suggested someone who's not female. I think all of her finalists are male, and someone that's popular and probably in a state that can help her out. And so we'll see what she does. It's far from over, but I think it's policy over personality. Trump's policies really helped the country out until COVID. Then he actually did that the fast development of the vaccines. I have an argument about vaccines that weren't necessarily that effective. Kimberly says, well, he killed all these people. Well, more people died of COVID under Biden than died under Trump, which really begs the question about who is effective and who wasn't. And so, I think it's just all basically right now, showmanship.
Some people can't do math, but go ahead.
The media.
Definitely interesting. We got Joe.
All right, so wait, 1 point. Let me make 1 point. We had 1 year of COVID under Trump. We've had 3.5 years of COVID, and it's not over yet. The numbers are as bad as they've ever been under Biden. Of course, more people are going to, we've had 3.5 times as long with COVID under Biden.
Joe, get off mute.
No solutions, all right.
See you tomorrow, everybody. Thank you so much. Be safe.
Joe.
Sorry, guys. Before we get into a COVID debate, which I would love, I do just want to close off this.
We have to go. It's 1 minute after, but we can continue.
We can go continue over because I started late.
I'll shut off faster.
I started late.
Okay.
It doesn't
Sure.
matter. We have to stop Caster. You can't.
Then even if I started late because it's only 46
Yeah,
minutes.
because a lot of things that people don't understand is we are time slotted.
All right,
Our system runs just like a regular TV network. It is time slotted. It has nothing to do with this. We can take this cut right and use it as a rerun at 60 minutes. But
Yeah, that's what I was hoping
right,
for.
but
Go,
you have
go,
to stop, just like I showed you. You have to stop. So again, let's get
Let
back
me
to
just
the
say-
show.
I did bring the guest on. They could have let him have some time.
On time.
Joe.
Wait, even
Speak to
hold on.
Joe.
Wait.
I want to hear from Joel because he was getting ready to make a point. So
All right.
No, look, I was just going to make one last point on Kamala Harris before we got into a COVID debate, which doesn't sound like it's going to happen. I was going to say, look, there's too many examples to cite with regards to Kamala Harris. First off, she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations. Then she laughed about it when she was asked whether she'd had marijuana. She blocked evidence that would have got a freed man off death row until the courts forced her to provide the evidence. And she also kept people beyond their prison sentences, using them for free labor for California. This is a collage of Kamala Harris, of all the black men that actually were used as cheap labor in California, who were used for cheap labor even after their prison term ended. Guys, this is very simple stuff that I've found online. And when I look at Kamala's record from a progressive perspective, because I used to be a progressive, we call her Kamala the cop. We call her Kamala the cop. And from a common sense right-wing perspective, the idea that she's been an enabler of Biden when he clearly isn't all there, it's scary to people in Australia. And, she should 25th Amendment him, step into the presidency and do the job. What we're doing right now, it's sort of a limbo. But look, I hope that Americans, you guys make the best choice. But whatever happens, Australia stands by you guys because We're in it together. But that's all I'll say on this.
So Biden, hold on. Biden is
recidivism,
making an
and
address.
he was ending recidivism, which if you do a little bit of research on that, but sometimes you have to be tough on crimes. At the time, marijuana was illegal. Granted, I find that a bit ridiculous as well. But I think what she did was, especially with the minorities, is by being a little bit tougher, which I had to do this with a couple of children that we fostered. Sometimes you just have to be a little bit tougher on them and make their repayment crime tougher, and it stops.
She isn't a little bit tougher.
Recidivism, if you ask me, but she was making them probably think twice about what kind of road do you really want to take. And when you're that tough in the courts, which I've seen the judges get extremely tough and they get tired of the repeat crimes. But when they do a little bit tougher, those people think twice. Well, you know what? I don't want to get caught again because I don't want to be.
Let's
punished.
not lie about it. Sorry to cut you off, but if she wants to be like Mike Pence on this, that's fine. But don't say you're a progressive. Don't lie to progressives that were like me that call her Kamala the cop, because we can see her track record. She withheld evidence that would have kept them out of death row.
Tougher on crimes that are recidivism?
No. And this is something that I get so upset with conservatives about, Kimberly.
That's different. I don't want repeated
Kimberly,
crimes.
this is something I get so upset about.
So
this is something I get so upset with conservatives about. You say that you want to be tough on crime. Look at what they did to the West Memphis 3, right? They locked those 3 boys up on absolutely no evidence because they liked Metallica, because the jury were like strong, like hardcore Christian conservatives. This is bullshit. We are supposed to have in Western countries an element of fairness and justice. And when it doesn't happen, everybody, I don't care with your left, right, center, wherever you are, justice is supposed to mean justice. Okay? But instead what we see people that have committed brutal crimes not getting out without cash bail, and we are seeing people being absolutely annihilated for minor crimes. So you want to show tough love? Fine, show tough love, but don't tell me locking up a 17-year-old kid for smoking dope in California is tough love. That's bullshit.
It is tough love, and until you dealt with the crimes and the people and in the courts, I've seen judges turn around, and I was so thrilled with this. When kids were caught stealing, instead of just letting them off, they made them pay back the money that, even though insurance covered it. And we would hear, well, why are you making him pay for it, not the other? But then that kid ends up better off. So there is a huge element to that. And it's a huge element of getting them off the streets and keeping them off the streets, as opposed to letting them back on the streets to repeat the crimes. The catch and release does not work.
No,
it does not work.
Joe wants to say something that I'd like to say again.
Rick had the question.
So we should, rather than talk about policing policy, we should talk about whether calling Harris Kamala the cop is going to change anybody's vote. I kind of doubt it.
Rick, allow me to clarify myself, because that's a phenomenal point. But Kimberly and Rick, please don't miss my point here. I'm not saying what she did was right or wrong. I'm actually not saying that. I'm saying that when we misclassify her as a progressive, she's not a progressive. Anyone that reads that rap sheet, and I could have gone on, would say she's not a progressive. That was my point.
Depends on what rap sheet you read. I read a lot of different rap sheets. I read both sides. I see all the things that people hate about her, and then I take a look at all the. And there are so many. It just depends on what news you watch, what you read. You can go out and look.
These are receipts.
They're all facts.
I gave you 3 facts.
They're all facts.
I want to say something on this issue.
Don't you have to weigh justice with systematic and historical racism? That's what Lee Rhodes said.
I want to say something on this issue. When you have the first, or one of the first female black women appointed to the Supreme Court, okay, I don't like the fact that she was appointed because she was a black woman. But one of the things I really liked was the fact that the normal pathway to being a judge is that you're a prosecutor. She was a former public defender. I think that's fantastic, because I think we need some people from the defense side of things that are going to be on the Supreme Court. And just to our viewer who put that comment up, if that comment was directed at Kimberly, Kimberly and I sometimes agree on lots of things, sometimes don't. But if that comment was directed at Kimberly, go stuff yourself, champ. Go stuff yourself. Kimberly is one of the most intelligent and wonderful people that I know. I'm proud to call her one of my friends. Kimberly and I, on
We
air
fight
and
all
off
the
air,
time.
argue with each
it's a
other all
lover's
the time.
quarrel.
But she is a wonderful human being who deserves to have every chance to express her viewpoints. And if that comment was directed at her, you're an idiot.
Yeah, I saw that.
I
I just
just
saw.
think
I
that
just
we
saw that.
need different
because we only got a
points
few
of
minutes to
view.
wrap up. I did see
to make
Richard
it-
Can I make
everything.
one?
But Travis,
clip?
I had a question to bring up
Thank
to your
you,
mind and everything. First off, when Willie Brown and her were together, that was the same time roughly that she was with Montel, and she was single at the time. She was not married at the time. She didn't marry the Jewish gentleman too much later.
Sorry, but who cares? See, I sit here all the time and say
Travis asked the
to
question.
Kimberly and to others,
Travis asked the question.
please leave it alone with Trump and whatever the hell he did with sexually with other people. I don't care. I care about policy. With Kamala Harris, I don't care. I don't care who she was sexually involved with. It doesn't matter. What matters is policy. What matters is somewhat what her record is, and what matters is what her vision is for the future. Judge it on that. Okay, I'm a very much different person to who I was 20 years ago, and 20 years from now, I'm going to be much different to who I am right now.
You know,
Leave it alone.
I was just answering Travis's question because Travis had asked the question at one point. But Rick,
Travis, go for it.
All right. So Dan earlier said that Biden Harris are destroying America, and liberals say that Trump is destroying America or will if he gets. Nobody's destroying America. America's 235 years old, and no one politician is destroying it. Yeah, we can argue about policy, but we've been through a ton of stuff. I mean, if you want to talk about a destroyed America, look at the Civil War. 2.5% of Americans were killed in that war. It was the highest percentage of anything we've ever been in, but we got through it, and we'll get through, the next year, the next 4 years.
Hey, this is a question for all the Australians as we get ready to walk out the door. Because the other thing that Dan said, and I somewhat agree with him and everything, not saying that I totally agree with him, but one of the things that he brought up is this notion that in the U.S., the moral question has come up and all along those lines. Because he said that there was a lack of morality, and he actually said it not just on the Democratic side, but I heard the quote right. He was saying that it was on both sides, and I wish Dan was here to talk about it, but he did bring up that he thought that there was a lot of moral decay on both sides of the aisle and all along those lines. So I just wanted y'all's take as somebody that is coming from Australia and is looking at America and all along those lines. So are we facing a moral decay, maybe not just here, but around the world? Because that is something that Dan had brought up in one of his earlier quotes. And I just wanted y'all's take on that.
Travis, do you want to weigh in on this? No.
To be honest
Yeah,
with
look,
you, guys were all talking over each other, so it was a bit hard to keep track of. So I was doing budgets.
Travis, question for you. Do you think that we're all facing a moral decay in the Western world right now?
Oh, absolutely. And it all starts with having drag queens in front of kids at school. I think a lot of parents are losing their responsibilities as a parent, and the government's trying to step in. The moment the government starts doing that sort of shit, everything goes down. Why would you allow one of the most corrupt organizations in the world to look after kids?
All right, I don't think it's drag queens. I think it's social media that makes us all more narcissistic.
It's all of it. The reason it's allowed to be on social media is because the politicians allow it. Like, if you want to raise your kid as a transsexual, that's your family's decision.
Stop
so,
technology.
Don't try and force it on parents that don't want drag queens in front of their kids.
Well, just don't be a
drag
parent.
queens
Be
is
a
a sexual
parent
thing.
and don't
I
let
think
them
they're
watch
over-sexualizing
stuff.
kids.
But
Be
Kim,
a
you brought up
parent
a
and
good,
take
you brought up a
the
good point.
device away
Kim.
from them. That's what my niece and her husband do. They monitor everything that the kids do, but they take those
So,
devices
Kim, you
away.
brought up
We
a
don't
good
even
point.
have
That's
a
what
choice.
I'm
We
saying.
have to be more responsible
If you
for
brought up a
raising
good point
our
in
own
the chat,
children.
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say about this as an Australian.
There are 20,000 drag queens in America. There are 300.
America's also the home of depravity as well. So
cell phones in America, all piping, social media and messaging. technology.
Okay,
What
so let me say this. So, as an Australian, just as a human being, okay, Rick, you've brought up porn heaps of times on previous shows. I have no problem with porn. Lots of my conservative friends think it's terrible and it's abusive to women, all sorts of things. But I got my first Playboy and Penthouse in year 7, and the year 11 kids lied to me and told me that Claudia Schiffer, who I had such a crush on, was in it. She wasn't. And I also paid 3 times more than I should have for the magazine. But here's what I'll say. I grew up with mechanics and truckers and stuff like that, and you go into the bathroom and there was all sorts of girly magazines that were in there. Now, I've got friends of mine that have children. Now, honestly, I'm not a parent yet, but I think that if I'm a parent and I have a son, I'm not going to have a problem with them seeing girly magazines. However, if my friends have a problem with that, I'm not going to show my friends' kids that. If you talk to friends of mine and I'm looking after their kids, or I take their kids out, to the shops or something like that, I won't even buy their kids an ice cream unless I ring the parents first and say, hey, is it okay if I buy your child an ice cream? Okay. So when it comes to things like school choice and what happens in the school curriculum, if I, who am very close to my friends and their children, won't do something with their children without their parents' permission, then I think the school system and the government should show the same kind of respect. I know we've only got a minute left. Joel, you're the special guest, only because you're wearing a suit, not because you're good looking or anything like that.
No,
because you're wearing a suit.
Look, thank you for having me on. I hope we can do this again. I feel like we just got started with the discussion. I just want to say thank you.
Lots of discussion. We didn't.
Thank you for joining us all the way from down under.
We didn't get to COVID. We didn't get to a number of other things, and we didn't get to what you brought up, Kim, which is the 12 million women a year abused and raped in the U.S. by U.S. citizens, and the gaslighting going on with the border. But maybe we'll get to that.
Yeah, and illegal immigrants. Yeah,
but definitely there's a lot of discussions that are going on in that space. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here.
Rick, we'll be backstage for a bit if you want to join us.
Okay.